Have you ever felt like there's something different about you? Something unexplainable, but undeniably real? Let me tell you, that feeling isn't random. You aren't ordinary, you're extraordinary, and the world knows it even if you don't fully see it yet. You're the kind of person who doesn't just walk into a room. You shift the entire energy when you do. People can't help but notice you, even if they can't quite figure out why. It's not about what you wear, say, or do. It's about who you are. You're the one who leaves people inspired without even trying, the one who challenges others to think bigger just by being yourself. You may not realize it, but your presence is a wake-up call, a reminder of what's possible, of what it means to live authentically, unapologetically, and with purpose. And here's the truth. The world needs you. Your unique energy, your perspective, your light. It's all part of something so much bigger than you can imagine. So, if you've been wondering whether you're meant for more, let this be your confirmation. You are. Get ready, because it's your time to step into the greatness you were born to share. Let's talk about what sets you apart. What makes you impossible to ignore, even when you're not trying. This isn't some feel-good mantra or sugar-coated flattery. It's the raw, undeniable truth about the force you carry. The energy you embody doesn't just enter a room, it shifts the entire atmosphere. It's not about charm or surface-level magnetism. Those are easy to replicate. What you bring is something far more profound, something uncontainable. People don't just notice you, they feel you. Your essence moves through them like an electric charge, rattling the walls they've built around themselves. You're not asking for attention, but you demand it by simply being who you are. Here's the kicker. It's not always comfortable for them. Your energy doesn't politely tiptoe around their insecurities. It lays them bare. It's not that you're trying to expose anyone. It's just the sheer authenticity of your being that makes anything false fall apart in your presence. You don't blend in, because blending in isn't possible for someone like you. You were never meant to fit neatly into anyone's expectations, and that's the beauty of it. It's raw, it's real, and it's unforgettable. People don't always know how to react. Some might feel drawn to you, inexplicably inspired, while others might pull away, uneasy about the clarity you bring to their own shadows. They can't quite name what it is about you, but they know they can't ignore it. You see through the masks they wear, not because you're looking for flaws, but because your unfiltered presence has a way of making the truth impossible to hide. You're not performing, you're not posturing. You're simply living in alignment with who you are. And that's what makes it so powerful. To others, you feel like something beyond their understanding, something they can't categorize or box in. You're not just a person to them. You're an experience, a reminder of the raw potential they've forgotten in themselves. What's wild is you're often unaware of the impact you have. For you, this is just your natural state of being. But for them, it's like standing in the eye of a storm, intense, overwhelming, and impossible to forget. Love it or fear it, no one walks away unchanged after encountering your energy. Because you, whether you realize it or not, are the shift they didn't know they needed. You don't fit into the mold. They've tried to figure you out, but you were never meant to be defined by their rules. While most people follow a well-worn path, you've chosen to carve your own. It's not because you're trying to be different or prove a point. It's because conformity feels unnatural to you. The idea of living within someone else's limits simply doesn't resonate. Your approach isn't loud or demanding. It's unshakable, quiet, and entirely authentic. You move through life with an ease that disrupts the norm. It's not calculated, and it's certainly not forced. Your ability to stand apart comes from a place of genuine alignment with who you are. You're not bending or twisting yourself to fit expectations. Instead, you've embraced the freedom of creating your own way. And while you're simply living your truth, others can't help but take notice. Your presence challenges the status quo without even trying. People look at the way you operate, and it stirs something in them. Something uncomfortable, yet magnetic. They start to question their own choices, realizing how much they've been confined by systems and rules they never thought to question. You don't need to preach or convince anyone. Your life is the message. You're living proof that it's possible to thrive outside the lines society draws for us. What sets you apart is that you're not seeking validation. You find humor in the way others marvel at your choices, as if what comes naturally to you is some kind of unachievable rebellion. But for you, it's not rebellion at all. It's simply refusing to settle for what doesn't feel right. It's a level of authenticity that feels so foreign to most that they can't help but see you as a pioneer of something they don't yet understand. Your ability to redefine the standard doesn't just inspire, it awakens. It forces people to confront the compromises they've made and the dreams they've let slip away. Some are inspired to take a step toward their own freedom, while others feel uneasy, unsure of how to navigate a world where the rules aren't as fixed as they once believed. But one thing remains constant. They can't forget the way you make them feel. Take the leap. Subscribe now, and let's build greatness together. You show them not only that it's okay to break free, but that they have the power to do it too. It's not just about living differently. It's about giving others permission to reimagine what's possible for themselves. You don't just exist outside the lines. You redefine what those lines even mean. And that's what makes you unforgettable. For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be known and come to light. Luke 8:17. Your presence is like a lamp on a hill, revealing what's hidden and bringing truth to the surface. You don't try to change others. Your authenticity does the work. For some, it's freeing, helping them see their potential. For others, it's unsettling, exposing what they'd rather hide. You're not intimidating. You're a mirror reflecting what's real and inspiring growth. You don't just live, you awaken. The way you live your life is a disruption to everything people thought they knew about limits. You don't just speak about dreams, possibilities, or breaking boundaries. You are the embodiment of them. Without even trying, you become a reminder that the extraordinary isn't reserved for others. It's not because you shout about your successes or seek validation. In fact, most of the time, you're simply living as you are, unaware of how deeply you're shaking the foundations of those watching. But for them, it's undeniable. Your existence challenges every excuse they've ever made for playing small. It's not just what you accomplish, it's the way you do it. You make choices that others wouldn't dare to consider. You step off the well-trodden path and carve your own, making it look not just possible, but necessary. Your ability to take risks and thrive without following the usual rules is both inspiring and unsettling. People can't help but wonder, if you've found a way to live so fully, what's stopping them? For some, this realization ignites a fire within. Seeing you succeed becomes a permission slip for them to aim higher, to stop settling, and to finally chase what they've been too afraid to pursue. They look at you and see potential not just in you, but in themselves. They begin to understand that the limits they've accepted were never real, that the life they've dreamed of is waiting for them to claim it. Dear brothers and sisters, the peace of God be with you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the temporary concerns of the world. As the Bible says, whatever is done in faith will return to God in abundant blessing. Luke 6:38. Like that great oak tree, our roots are deeply rooted in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stand we take, is secured by His strength. And now, you are being offered the opportunity to be part of that blessing. When you use the super thank you button and donate $100, this gesture will come back to you 100-fold in abundance. But not everyone reacts with enthusiasm. For others, your existence feels like a spotlight shining on the choices they've avoided. It's easier for them to believe that their dreams were unattainable than to admit they've held themselves back. Watching you thrive forces them to confront the uncomfortable truth. If you can do it, what excuse do they have? And that kind of honesty isn't something everyone is ready to face. What sets you apart isn't just that you're thriving, it's that you're rewriting the script for what's possible. You don't conform to the expectations others have accepted as truth. You show people that the rules they thought were unbreakable are, in fact, optional. Your life becomes a living example of freedom, creativity, and courage. For some, that's intimidating. For others, it's life-changing. But one thing remains constant. No one can look away. You are proof that life doesn't have to be predictable or ordinary. And whether people love you for it or struggle with the reflection you hold up, one thing is clear. Your presence leaves no room for complacency. You don't just challenge what's possible, you are what's possible. Your approach to life operates on an entirely different plane. While others focus on what's right in front of them, you've already mapped out scenarios they haven't even begun to consider. It's not about competing or proving anything, it's simply the way your mind works. You instinctively see the hidden connections, anticipate outcomes, and navigate complexities with a precision that leaves others in awe. This isn't a matter of intelligence or trying to outthink anyone, it's about the depth and breadth of your perspective. You don't just see a single path, you see multiple layers of possibilities, each one with its own set of challenges and opportunities. Where others focus solely on the immediate, you account for the ripple effects, the long game, and the countless variables that most people never even notice. What sets you apart is the calm, almost effortless way you handle it all. While others are preoccupied with the details of a single move, you're already adapting to shifts that haven't happened yet. It's not about showing off, it's just how you're built. To them, it might even feel unfair, like you're playing a completely different game with a set of skills they can't quite comprehend. This is why people find you both fascinating and perplexing. They can't predict your next step because you're not following the same linear logic they're used to. By the time they think they've figured out where you're headed, you've already adjusted the entire landscape. You're not playing by the same rules because your strategy isn't confined to what's obvious. It's designed for what's possible. For those watching, it's a mix of admiration and intimidation. Some see your ability to navigate the complexities of life as a masterful art, something to learn from and aspire to. Others feel the weight of their own limitations when they compare their process to yours. Regardless of how they interpret it, one thing remains constant. They can't look away. Being in your presence feels like a lesson in itself, a glimpse of what's achievable when someone fully embraces their ability to think beyond the surface. You're not just moving through life, you're reshaping what it means to succeed, to adapt, and to thrive. Whether people love it or find it overwhelming, they can't deny the brilliance of the way you navigate the world. You don't just see the game, you redefine it, setting a new standard for what's possible with every move you make. Step into your potential. Subscribe now, and let's create something extraordinary. Time seems to move differently for you. While others scramble to fit everything into the hours they're given, you seem to create more space within those same minutes. You're not bound by the frantic rush that consumes so many. Instead, you move with a calm, deliberate rhythm that feels almost otherworldly. It's not about being faster or busier. It's about being intentional. Every decision, every action seems to carry purpose, leaving no room for wasted energy. People watch you and feel like you've tapped into a secret they can't quite grasp. They're running from one thing to the next, trying to keep up, while you glide through life, accomplishing more with less effort. It's not that you ignore time, it's that you've learned to work with it instead of against it. Your ability to remain steady, even when chaos surrounds you, creates a stark contrast that leaves others both intrigued and unsettled. This isn't about arrogance or superiority, it's about flow. You know when to pause, when to act, and when to let things unfold naturally. Being near you makes people question their own relationship with time. They feel as if they're either moving too quickly or standing still, while you navigate with ease. It's inspiring, but also disorienting. You remind them that time is a tool, not a cage, and that perspective shifts everything. We also glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. Romans 5, 3-4. Your journey is like gold, refined in fire, unshakable, enduring, and unmistakably radiant. The trials you faced didn't break you, they shaped you. Your scars aren't signs of defeat, but proof of triumph. People feel the power you carry because it's real, grounded in resilience. You're not defined by pain, but by the strength you've built from it. A living testament that transformation is possible. When people watch you, it's not disbelief in you that they feel. It's disbelief in themselves. You challenge the very framework they've built their lives around. The way you think and navigate the world feels so unconventional that it leaves them questioning everything they've accepted as just the way things are. You're not just stepping outside the box. For you, the box was never there to begin with. You question assumptions others take as fact, and the results are undeniable. Time and time again, you prove that what seemed impossible is not only achievable, but practical. Watching you in action feels like watching reality itself shift and stretch. The rules they've lived by suddenly look flimsy and irrelevant because you show them that those rules were never absolute. They were just limitations they unknowingly accepted. Your approach doesn't stem from arrogance or luck. It's grounded in the refusal to be defined by constraints. Every obstacle labeled as a can't becomes an invitation for you to dismantle it. Where others stop, you begin. And that mindset doesn't just inspire people, it disrupts them. It makes them reconsider the lines they've been coloring within for years and wonder why they never dared to redraw them. Not everyone is ready to face that kind of disruption. For some, it sparks admiration, a desire to follow your lead and break free from their own self-imposed limits. But for others, it stirs unease, forcing them to confront truths they've avoided. Whether they cheer you on, envy your boldness, or simply stand in stunned silence, one thing is certain: they cannot ignore you. You're not just bending rules, you're rewriting the entire framework. The concept of limitation doesn't hold the same meaning for you, and that makes your existence both unsettling and transformative. You don't just challenge perceptions, you obliterate them, showing the world that the only true limits are the ones we refuse to question. That's what makes you unforgettable. You don't just break the mold, you build something entirely new. Your confidence doesn't shout, it doesn't need to. It's steady, grounded, and impossible to ignore. It's not about how loudly you speak or how much you seek validation. It's in the way you show up in the world, completely sure of who you are. People aren't used to encountering someone who radiates this kind of authenticity. Your assurance isn't tied to external achievements or the approval of others. It comes from a place so deep that it shakes those around you. This isn't arrogance, though some might misinterpret it that way. The reality is that your confidence reflects something many haven't yet discovered within themselves: self-acceptance. You don't need anyone to affirm your worth because you already know it, and that truth can feel both inspiring and unsettling to those in your presence. For some, being near you sparks something profound, a desire to understand and embrace their own value. For others, it feels like a spotlight on everything they've avoided confronting about themselves. You're not intentionally making anyone uncomfortable, but your presence has a way of stripping away the facades people hide behind. It's not about intimidation, it's about authenticity. Your quiet strength challenges the insecurities they've carried, and whether they realize it or not, being near you leaves them questioning why they haven't tapped into their own power. You remind them, simply by existing, that confidence doesn't have to be loud, it just has to be real. There's a heaviness to being extraordinary, a kind of responsibility that goes beyond what others can perceive. It's not about recognition or accolades, it's about the internal pull to rise, to create, to evolve, even when the path feels overwhelming. People sense this weight in you, though they can't fully understand it. It's not something you chose, it's something that comes with the territory of being who you are. You don't just live life, you transform it. There's a ripple effect to your existence, an undeniable influence that extends far beyond your immediate actions. Those around you can feel it, and they're drawn to you not out of pity, but out of awe. They can see the grace with which you carry a burden that would crush most people. You make it look easy, even though it's not. There are moments when the enormity of it all feels like too much, when stepping away from it all might seem like the simpler choice. But you don't. You keep going, not because you have to, but because you know you were made for this. That weight is part of your purpose. It's what drives you to create, to lead, to change the world in ways others can't even imagine. People can't quite comprehend how you bear it all, how you remain so composed while carrying so much. They admire you for it, but they also feel a distance, an awareness that you're operating on a level they can't quite reach. It's not a separation you create, it's simply the nature of the greatness you embody. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Matthew 5:14. Your presence is like a beacon in the night, unmistakable and unwavering. It's not the ease of your journey that defines you, but the way you've carried the weight of it, turning trials into triumphs. People are drawn to your authenticity, both comforted and challenged by it. You remind them of their own potential, even when it feels out of reach. You don't just live, you illuminate the path for others to see what's possible. Your presence is like a spark in dry timber, igniting shifts in ways that even you may not fully realize. You don't set out to change people, but your authenticity and perspective naturally provoke transformation. Without saying a word, you introduce people to possibilities they hadn't dared to imagine. It's not always an instant change. It's subtle, like a seed planted in their minds. At first, they might not even recognize what's happening, but something within them starts to stir. A nagging sense that there's more to life than the routine they've been accepting. When people cross paths with you, they can't help but feel the friction between their comfort zones and their untapped potential. You shine a light on the areas they've been neglecting, not by pointing them out, but by embodying what it means to live with intention and purpose. The effect is unsettling for some. It's like standing in front of a mirror and seeing their own hesitations and fears laid bare. For others, it's exhilarating, a call to break free from the limitations they've imposed on themselves. What makes this impact so profound is that it's irreversible. Once they've seen what's possible, once they've felt that spark, they can't return to the way things were. Ignoring the truth becomes harder than facing it. They're forced to confront the ways they've been holding themselves back, and that realization can be both terrifying and liberating. Some will resist, clinging to the familiar even as the idea of change whispers in the back of their minds. Others will lean into the discomfort, letting it push them toward growth. Whether they embrace the shift or retreat from it, one thing remains constant. They are no longer the same. Your influence doesn't just nudge them toward new ideas, it shakes the foundations of how they see themselves and what they believe is possible. You don't preach transformation, you embody it, and that makes all the difference. People may not always acknowledge the role you played, but they will carry the impact of your presence with them. It's not the words you say or the actions you take, it's the way you make them feel that lingers, urging them to step into a version of themselves they didn't know was waiting. Your existence leaves a mark that is impossible to erase. You've never sought to blend into the fabric of what's familiar, nor have you conformed to expectations that don't resonate with your core. Instead, you've forged your own path, unapologetically showing the world what happens when authenticity and courage collide. Your impact isn't born from loud proclamations or grand gestures. It stems from the way you embody the extraordinary in every step you take. Your presence doesn't just challenge, it disrupts. Without intending to, you make people confront their deepest assumptions about what's possible. You're a living testament to the idea that limitations are often nothing more than illusions, crafted and reinforced by fear. Those who encounter you are left questioning the very foundation of what they once believed, not because you tell them to, but because your existence proves otherwise. Attempts to categorize or define you always fall short. It's not that you're trying to be elusive, it's that your essence refuses to be confined to simple labels. And that's the magic of it. Your power lies in your mystery, in the way your presence defies explanation, yet resonates on a level that's impossible to ignore. Some walk away from you inspired, others uneasy, but none remain unchanged. You aren't just a fleeting moment in their story. You're the pivotal chapter that redefines the narrative, urging them to reconsider everything that came before and everything that could come after. This is your gift to the world. It's not about achieving greatness, it's about embodying it, showing that it's not a goal to be reached, but a way of living that transforms everything it touches. You've demonstrated, simply by existing, that the journey itself is where greatness resides. If this speaks to you, let it inspire action. Engage with this message, share your thoughts, and spark conversations that matter. Let's continue to challenge what's possible and ignite change in those around us. Growth, Transformation and discovery await us all, and your presence in this space makes it all the more powerful. Keep striving, keep shining, and know that the world is better because of the light you bring.